Assalamualaikum. We are from Group 3 and we would like to explain about our topic, which is sunnatullah.
I'm Norisha Amira Binti Sahid and I'm the first presenter that is going to present the introduction of this project. Everything that happens in this world does not happen by chance. These prevailing things are even bounded by the rules set by His Creator. Allah SWT does not just set rules for the dead such as planets, plants and animals, but He also applied the law to the human beings. The meaning of the word sunnah is mean, travel or way. Thus we can describe the sunnatullah as the way how it is followed and happen in the relationship between Allah and a man. Free interaction between the same gender, or better known as the lgbtq, is becoming more common across the world as we can see today. LGBTQ is acronym for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and queer or questioning. These terms are used to describe a person's sexual orientation or gender identity. As you can see nowadays, the increase in the LGBTQ promotion or advertisement on social media has been spread to everywhere. Many argument that this phenomenon will infect the next generation of the country. This issue is not something new or a phenomenon that has just emerged, but it has existed for a long time, even in the time of the Prophet Lut. The term gay is a specific that used to refer to the gay man, while lesbian is the homosexual woman. In the book of fiqh, lesbian is called as the sahaq or al-musahaqah, while gay is known as the term sodomy, which is derived from the Prophet Lut alaihi salam. Gay or homosexual behavior has been known by the society from time to time. At certain times, this behavior was done by the people of Prophet Lut because Al-Quran Al-Karim has described the characteristic of Prophet Lut, who did not want to marry women, as found in the Surah Al-A'raf, verse 80 to 81. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولوطا إذ قال لقومه أتأتون الفاحشة ما سبقكم بها من أحد من العالمين إنكم لتأتون الرجال شهوة من دون النساء بل أنتم قوم مسرفون. From this ayah, it explained that Prophet Lut asked his people when committing iniquity quit, do you have hisha, such as doing a job that bad, which is homosexual that never done before by anyone in this world. This is one of the forms of their disobedience to Allah SWT. Prophet Lut is a little different from the previous prophet based on this verse. He doesn't warn about monotheism, but it doesn't mean that he did not encourage monotheism. But he should finish with the strengthening of faith with an issue that is really ugly. People who commit homosexuality expect only disgusting physical enjoyment.
My name is Irene and I'll be talking about the analysis. The analysis that we had gathered is to examine whether LGBTQ was born to be transgender and the factors of these activities. Besides, it is to discuss of LGBTQ phenomenon, the factors of how it happened, and the comparison of human rights. Lastly, it focuses on the study of the relatable sunnatullah and LGBTQ.
Hello, I'm Ahmad Bakri. So I would like to explain about the plan of this project. So the plan of this project is consists of question, hypothesis, problem statement and research design. So we are responsible for coordinating a survey on our community, which is IIUM, concerning the link between the sunnatullah and the sexual orientation, which is lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender and queer. The info collected during the survey initiative is provide insight into the opinions of our university community members. Survey queries focus on the issue that hot in our society just now. The main reason we tend to select this issue because it really opposed to the sunnatullah that created human impairing of men and women. The research questions to be addressed are: what do you think about the LGBT community? Are they were born in that way, which is were born that to be transgender? Next, we observe if they know about the act of the LGBT nowadays, and should we accept the concept of LGBT in our society? Then we ask about, is it LGBT is against sunnatullah to acknowledge the IIM community if they can relate the sunnatullah with LGBT. Lastly, we ask if the respondent have their contact that inclines towards LGBT and what they would do and what their view on LGBT. The issue of sexual orientation is hotly debated in our society. Now, Malaysia has increasingly liberal followers. Gay and lesbian people are increasingly exposing their action openly. Even they are trying to find the legitimacy of the evidence of the Quran and Hadith. Then they twisting its meaning by not looking at the other verses that are related to the problem because they have a little religious knowledge and have not read much tafsir and hadith. They do not know the usul fiqh and other means of the ijtihad, so they think that there is no prohibition from the Quran and hadith to practice the homosexuality and lesbianism. So that according to them, the ban of the LGBTQ is a ban on a human right. Thus, this survey is to determine if the RIUM community has involved in this mentality or problems and against sunnatullah as well. Hypothesis in this research is to overreaching the goal of this project to determine the respondent reaction to sexual orientation problems. The sexual orientation views or understanding that against sunnatullah has not been widely reported. Thus, it's clearly that the aim of this research is to determine the relatable of sunnatullah and sexual orientation. The influence range of factors on deformation was investigated by the survey to know if they are one of the LGBTQ followers. This research also has an important objective, consists of disputes of sexual orientation phenomenon in Islamic law, which are to identify factors of LGBTQ compared to the human right from the view of the Muslim and non-Muslim believer, and also to give some recommendation and suggestion for those who are involved in. Thus, in the end, we will be able to get the data of percentages about others' perspective on the relationship between LGBTQ and sunnatullah. Research design for our research is primary quantitative research, which is a descriptive survey. Descriptive research survey that we use is to gather the data about various objectives. This data is aimed to know the extent to which different conditions can be obtained among these objectives. We use a survey as our research instrument, and each item on the survey is related to the qualification. Qualifications are subjected to a polar answers and the multiple answers. We use a cross-tabulation method, which is a process using descriptive analysis by collecting data by the gender, courses, and age of the respondent. This survey allows us to determine the understanding and opinion of our respondent on sunnatullah's correlation with sexual orientation.
Is a system of methods used in a specific field of research or operation. In this case, we use primary quantitative research as our methodology and created a quick simple survey because of its distinctive feature. And the survey we conducted contains 2 multi-choice questions and 4 polar questions. We also use descriptive analysis to infer the findings during the entire survey, which helps to meaningfully or easily explain, view, or summarize data. We also agreed to administer the survey to 100 individuals in the IIUM group. Cross-tabulations are essentially table statistics displaying the results of the full group and the results of survey respondents' subgroups. The reason we have chosen to use cross-tabulation data is that we are guided by defining trends and the association between our sample parameters in order to make decisions in our studies.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Aisha binti Mohtar with Metro 016018. I would like to explain another part of methodology. Although various methods can be used to gather the information, we choose the survey as the main method as we want to identify the pattern in people's opinion, experience, and behavior. Surveys are especially useful for finding the information from a wider and varied selection of people. This is because we can specify our respondents in terms of age, community, and gender, which can lead to a more accurate result. To illustrate, the respondents that were selected for this survey are the IIUM community students from all 3 campuses, which are Kuantan, Gombak, and Pagu. The goal of this selection is to focus more on the youth who belong to the IIUM community, as there are international students from all over the world with various ages of youth indirectly contribute to answer variation. Based on our point of view, it is undeniably that the issue of sexual orientation exists more among youth compared to adults, as it is due to several factors. First, the younger generation is now easily exposed to the Western cultural trends through social media applications such as TikTok and YouTube. To illustrate, the users only need to type gay, transgender or lesbian, and after that, the relevant video will be displayed on the phone screen. As a result, youth who do not have a strong religious background will be easily influenced to involve in this culture and indirectly violate the sunnatullah. Apart from that, the influence of surroundings such as people around them also play a major impact. Growing up, the people who spend most of their time with the youth are not parents or siblings, but they are peers. This is because youth spend most of their time outside the home, especially for someone who is continuing their studies to the university level. All the behavior of their friends will be observed and they will follow, because at this age, youth are always curious about new things and tend to try something new. This situation is in line with the word from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Man is influenced by the faith of his friend. Therefore, be careful of whom you befriend. Narrated by Abu Dawud Tirmidhi. Aside from that, this survey is conducted because we would like to see if there are any signs of LGBTQ among IIUM students. Through this survey, we can detect if a student has the same understanding as this LGBTQ group. This is because someone who has a strong belief will definitely say that LGBTQ is something that violates the sunnatullah as narrated in the Quran in Surah Az-Zariyat verse 49.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. وَمِن كُلِّ شَيْءٍ خَلَقْنَا زَوْجَيْنِ لَعَلَّكُمْ تَذَكَّرُونَ.
And of all things we created two mates, perhaps you will remember. The verse is another source of our methodology to strengthen our idea on this topic. It is clearly said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything in pairs, as we can see. There are a man and a woman, also male animals and a female animals. Therefore, LGBTQ community is the one that violates the sunnatullah with its existence, because they are the one that change the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If there are any IIUM students who support LGBTQ, this can be detected at the early stage and they can still be led by the IIUM community to the right path. If everyone takes part in curbing this issue, two of the IIUM mission, which are integration and Islamization, will be accomplished.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The first graph illustrates the opinion of students in answering questions about LGBTQ issue. Majority of students claim that they do not think LGBT community were born to be transgender, with 85% of students. 95% of students answer we should not accept the concept of LGBTQ in our society. 94% of students agree LGBTQ against sunnatullah, and 81% of students maintain that LGBTQ is banned. Nevertheless, certain students do not agree with the majority and make them the minority. Less than 10% of students think LGBTQ community were born to be transgender, thinks to accept LGBT concept in our community. They also consider that LGBTQ is not against sunnatullah and LGBTQ is not bad. Meanwhile, several students still not sure about this issue. The next figure shows the causes of LGBTQ. Environmental influence get the highest vote with 36% of students. Students believe their surrounding is the biggest factor that leads to this ideology, such as a member of their family or friend is one of the LGBTQ. The second highest is internet influence with 23% of respondents, followed by sexual orientation with 20% of respondents, broken heart with different gender with 12% of respondents, support from higher up with 7% of respondents, and only 1% of respondents pick boarding school influence as the trigger of this crisis and make this option as the least that gets chosen. And the last graph indicates the action that is selected by students in order to curb this problem. Advise them get the highest vote with the 48% of students. However, the option that get the lowest vote with only 3% is reported to the authorities. The other actions, such as stopping them before it's going to happen, take him or her to have counseling session, persuade them to leave the ideology and educate them, get the similar number of votes with 13%, 12%, 10% and 13% of for each. Since the victim of this problem is their contact, whether they are friends, seniors or juniors, or maybe their family, they choose the best option to make them change without punishing them.
To begin with, if a person that we know inclines toward the LGBTQ, we as human, we need to advise and educate, not to ignore them. However, the way of reprimanding should be the right way because society plays a significant role in helping LGBTQ people to return to society with more confidence. Another solution is to take him or her to have counseling session with a counselor. They can chat and share their thoughts about this activity is more deep and the technique of meeting with counselors. They are more comfortable communicating to people who are more experienced than ordinary people. At the same time, counselors can also persuade them to abandon their ideology by explaining to them the disadvantages and also the advantages of the ideology. In this way, they can accept reprimands with an open heart. Other than that, as humans, we need to stop them first before it's going to happen on another level. There are many things that we can be done to prevent it by inviting them to the participate in beneficial program and attending knowledge gatherings such as inviting them to attend religious talk, usra, recitation classes, human development camp and self-excellence. As a result, they are able to distinguish and recognize between good friends and bad friends. Last but not least, the community also can send a report to the authorities. This is because some of those who are participating in such activity may still not knowledgeable or not accept any advice from the local community. So the authorities may provide the appropriate lessons and funds to them. Other than that, the authorities also can send them to the rehabilitation center to repair themselves to become a better one.
And the last part is Islamization. Allah said in Al-Quran, وَإِن كَذَّبُوكَ فَقُلْ لِيَعْمَلِي وَلَكُمْ عَمَلُكُمْ أَنْتُمْ بَرِيئُونَ مِمَّا أَعْمَلُ أَنَا بَرِيءٌ مِمَّا تَعْمَلُونَ. And if they deny you, O Muhammad, then say, for me are my deeds and for you are your deeds. You are dissociated from what I do and I am dissociated from what you do. Surah 10 verse 41. Islamization that we want to highlight is based on Surah Yunus verse 41. Allah already said that the righteous of Muslim and speech are afforded in the Quran is followed by taking responsibility for one's action. It's put obligation on Muslim and offers the right to communicate their contrast responsibly to those of different view. This Quran injunction, in essence, facilitates a healthy and more inclusive knowledge and respect for others.